when he invited me. As you know, politicians, we are at home when we are with big gatherings. But he came to my office, explained to me the nature of this meeting, and I told him that in this kind of a meeting, actually the smaller the better. Because the more smaller, the more impactful it can be. Because many times we attend gatherings, we say things, but later on you wonder who you are speaking to. Because everything you are speaking to everyone, then you are basically speaking to no one. Just when also that when you know everything, most of the times you know nothing. So I am very grateful to be in this hall this morning with Alex and all the other speakers, including Caro, Asanteni Sana, Ewaja. We have met most of the people in this hall. We have met in various forums, and especially business-related, investments and entrepreneurship-based. I will do a very short speech because today we also need to listen to ladies who are actually doing it. But I am one of the people who believe that what I can do as a man, there is no distinction. A lady can also do it and probably also do it better. And I say that because even at home, I am the only man. The rest are sisters. And they also do things. And they need to be encouraged. And they also need to compete, not just encouraged. So I didn't come here to talk to you in terms of people who should be uplifted. I came to you to talk to people who are already competent enough, doing things, and who can scale them even at higher levels. From the onset, because I don't want to imagine that we have met everyone here, I come from Kiharu, and it is important I mention, many of us are here because of education. We also do that in our leadership capacity. All our public primary schools are very well done. All of them are tiled, all of them. And it's a rural constituency, which is large, 6 wards. And we run also a program where we are now not just tiling, but also doing landscaping and making our schools look, not in terms of even Kenyan standards, but even better. And we have done 65 institutions, cabro, landscaping, and the rest. And actually some of the people who, when they do their weddings, they go to our public primary schools to take photos. And I'm very proud about that. The other thing is the program we launched this year. It has been there for years. It's called Kiharu Masomo Bora. Kiharu Masomo Bora takes care of all learners in our day secondary schools. And school fees there, by the way, in all our 65 learning institutions, covering over 10,000 learners, they only pay 500 per term as school fees. And they eat in school from Monday to Saturday. And the last Friday of the month, of course, they eat chapati, as you already know. And it has been working, so you are not trying. And I want to appreciate this lady. Please, amuka tafadhali, ya kuomba. They accompany Raha Premium. The chapati we take in Kiharu for the entire year, they have supplied us with unga, flour. I don't mean supplying. You know, many of us are suppliers here. I mean giving for free. Thank you very much, and pass my regards to Shomba. Asante sana. And they have actually done it also for some previous years, and we are very grateful for such partnerships. Now, there are topics I enjoy talking about. Economics, when it comes to the macro sense of things, but also investments and business and entrepreneurship when it comes to micro. Because those two things are the same. It's like you're talking about sugarcane and sugar. One feeds to the other. In economics, what we call micro is us as human beings, as agents of the economy, households, which is our homes, and also farms. Farms represent businesses. So if you sum what we are doing in household level and what the farms are doing, that is basically what we call now the economy. So you can't talk about the economy without talking about what builds or what makes the economy to be called the economy. And therefore, when I talk about them, I'm talking about the same coin, but on the other sides. The reason I'm saying that is because most of the things we'll talk about here that attaches to us as individuals have also ramifications when it comes to Kenya as an economy. So I'll zero in around entrepreneurship first. I have categorized my brief talk in two ways. One, we just highlight a few points on entrepreneurship and business, like what Jackie does at Gorgeous College. And then we do investments. Investments is, after you get the money and the resources, what do you do with it for it to now work for you? If you are given a choice, we say in economics that the reason why we are here, the reason why you paid up to come here is because of your self-interest. Either to come and network, get a contact that can give you business, market your product, become more polished, become more sharpened. That's the reason you are here. And therefore, economy also works that way. This hotel does not exist for us to hold seminars. Serena exists to make money. And that is why the same thing Waja exists, not to look for jobs for people abroad, but as he does that also to make money. And that self-interested interaction is what brings harmony to the economy. You can imagine if it was the work of government to plan how I will arrive here from my home. Because that's how a command economy works. A command economy works on planning. That you plan how many people you have, what they need to wear, who manufactures that. It would be an impossible feat for any government to do that. And that is how now capitalism came to help to harmonize the economy. That a guy who wants to make money out of a butchery, make sure I have meat every day. I don't even need to bother. Neither does the national government in the national central government. Does not need to bother. My brother and sister who wants to make money out of transport, they realize there is a gap and there is something called matatu they buy. And they look for a route. They think, I may make more money in this route. And they deploy their matatu there. So out of their self-interest to make money out of a matatu, then we arrive in town. Out of the self-interest of that person who wants to import cars, then you don't even bother to go to Japan. He even simplifies your work. He brings you the car, including the number plate. Because there is competition which brings harmony. And therefore, when you're talking about business, never feel ashamed. Like you are too aggressive. Like you'll be seen as an outright person who is pursuing self-interest. That's what you should be doing. When you pursue your self-interest, including Kengori, including John Benson, he didn't organize this forum for us to come and network. He also has his own personal goals in this. That's why you must also pull the string to your head. The other person pulls. Efficiency is gotten out of that interaction and harmony is gotten. I'll highlight a few points on business and entrepreneurship, which maybe you know, but I want to reinforce. All of us are doing businesses here. All of us, majority of us. As you do your business, always think about a business you can scale. Always. If you do a business which is not scalable, that business is a prison. You become a prisoner of that business. If I'm a carpenter, and it's only my hands which can build and construct or make this chair, only my hands because I am the carpenter in that workshop. It means if I don't go to work, there are no chairs to be done that day. I am no longer a businessman. I am a prisoner of my workshop. If, for example, you are in the, let's say, transport industry, and in your matatu you are the driver, and that is the only way that that matatu can work, that if you are not on the steering, there is no matatu. You are a prisoner of that matatu. You are no longer an entrepreneur. And therefore, it is important, and remember, I'm talking to you as an entrepreneur. I'm not talking to you as a human being. I'm talking to you as an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship itself being one of the factors of production. Let me just make that point. When you are producing, huwa unakanyaga nini ndio produce as the basis. The traditional ones, they represent other things nowadays, but one we say land. It no longer represents just land nowadays. The second one is, we used to call it capital. Capital, we thought it is money, but it's more, including machinery. Number 3 was labor, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship being one of the factors of production, which you possess by virtue of being in this hall. Your work is not to be a prisoner. You are an entrepreneur not because of your hands, but because of your mind. And therefore, when you tell yourself that I am Gorgeous College, it's only me who can teach here. It's only me who I can be the CEO or the principal of my college. Then you're not an entrepreneur. You are a principal. So I want us to think about businesses which we can scale. And scalability is in 2 ways. Scalability of a business. Scalability number 1 is gotten out of you can involve more hands than just yours. Yes, I run a workshop, but I have the ability to have 20 more hands working for that purpose, and it frees me now to think as an entrepreneur. So it can be in terms of labor, but scalability can also be in terms of capital. Capital here meaning technology and machinery. You can be a tailor, but you can also have a setup like an EPZ, where you are no longer, yes, you know how to tailor and make garments and apparels. But now, your work has already moved from doing it to managing it. The work of you as an entrepreneur is not to do the actual thing. It is to bring the resources together to have the product at the head of the value chain. That's the point number 1 I wanted to highlight. Point number 2 is something I would call the prisoner's dilemma. Prisoner's dilemma works when you are somewhere in, it's basically that definition, prisoner's dilemma. They are at a point where collaboration brings a win-win situation. That all factors are looked at, and we see that by collaborating, there is gain for everyone. But what do we choose to do, both in business and in politics? We seek first to dominate and annihilate and remove the competition. So our goal becomes, both in politics and in business, in journalism, in anything, even when it makes all sense for people to come together, because of our ego, we want to dominate, and therefore we end up spending more together. Remember, you are not alone. So prisoner's dilemma works in a field where, like all your fields here, no one here is a monopoly of anything you do. No one. Raha Premium, other brothers are competing. My brother Alex Chamwanda, their media houses are competing with him. Caro, in terms of events, there are people who are already competing with you. Maybe at some point, it makes all the sense for you to collaborate with the person you are competing with. But what do? Tunakausha kichwa because we are choreographed to dominate. Our ego becomes more satisfied when you dominate. You dominate, you satisfy your ego, but you lose money and you lose business. So that's something we need to balance. Some of us are doing business here. You are only 2 of you, but there are other 10,000 people doing the same business. But maybe in your corner, it makes all the sense for you to come together and say, we don't need to fight. We are spending a lot in marketing just so that I overdo you and you overdo me in terms of the business. And it makes all the sensible sense. Oh, let's hold hands. Let's form something stronger. We spend less per capita in marketing and the rest, and therefore the profit margin is enhanced. So let's look at that also most of the time. The other one, which I'll do the last, then I go to investments briefly. I keep talking about it and I'll repeat it. I'll keep repeating it until we can do it. You are here with a business, let's say manufacturing cement or any other thing. From now, as a one-person company, and on a barisana, start seeing a conglomerate employing thousands. And now start seeing yourself not as a business that, tukiwa village, even me, I had a shop nikiwa primary school. Just owning a shop. Na kanyaga barabara uko kwetu shags like I owned the village. Because you have a small kiosk. Look for a way and think that this TPS Serena, where we are in Serena, the group company is called Tourism Promotional Services. The biggest shareholder is Aga Khan of this place. But it's listed in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. You can actually go buy a TPS Serena today and you become one of the shareholders of this hotel we are. And when they make profit, they have to give you some of it as dividends because you are part owner. To scale the business, to scale it and grow it big. Let's remove from our mind this thing of wanting to own the business 100%. If Aga Khan does not own this Serena 100%, but you in your restaurant, no one can touch you. Hey, this hotel nilianza na shida sana. Mimi sitaki mtu wa kunisumbua. Hii kazi ya uga mimi nilianza nikiwa chini, na mnajua mimi nilianza kwanza nilikopeshwa pesa na babu yangu ya kahawa. Me, I can't bring anyone. Sawa. We are not telling you to bring anyone. We are telling you, look for a sort of route to be wealthier. And the sort of route to be wealthier is not for you to own 100% of a restaurant. It is to own 2% of Serena Group of hotels. And we are just saying, Facebook, that is what is called Meta, Amazon, the rest. All those guys you hear about, no one knows even 50% of their business, you can imagine. Elon Musk does not even own even a third of Tesla. And he's the richest, wealthiest man in the world. And you want to be like him or near him, but you're doing the polar opposite. I don't think that can work. You know, when we were in high school, you could see what the number one guy is doing, then you copy them. Jamaa anaamka saa 9, hata mimi naamka saa 9. Sasa wewe unaona jamaa anaamka saa 9 na wewe unaamuka saa 3 ya asubuhi. And you want to be like him. If there is no coincidence that the entire list of the richest in Kenya, but also in the world, is no coincidence that none owns 100% of their businesses, including Dagote Cement. Yes, they list. Like in Nigeria, they have different rules. You can list a business and own 95% of it. But by the time they are growing, companies attract capital. How do you attract capital? You are here as an event company, you are only doing ushering. That's the only thing you can do because your capital reaches there. But you go to your clients, they ask you, do you supply sound? You call some other guy who supplies sound. Do you do videography? I've never thought of it. Why? I know ushering. Why? My capital reaches on making uniforms for the ushers. That's where my capital reaches. But your mind is beyond the capital. Your mind is already scaling within itself. Your mind, actually, you can take the entire program of an event and run it. But buying a truck, buying hammer, easy tents, buying sound, I just can't. So let me do ushering. You've done it for 10 years. You've done it for 7 years. Kaa chini ujiulize, if you go by the same pace, utafika wapi in the next 10 years? And if your calculation shows you'll be okay, owning 100% of your business, don't attract any capital. You run a college like Jackie here. And I've had a talk with her. Because I said the beauty of business in Kenya, it's not, there's no much competition. That's why most of you, we meet in many business forums. So you won't go just college, let's say with 500 students. Your goal is to become a larger, even a university. But with the growth, with the organic growth of making profit, returning it back, if you do compounding, how long will it take you to even have a campus, not a university, not even with one campus, but even one block of classes? How long will it take you? So you open up, you have a college with 500 students, giving you, let's say, a gross revenue of 10 million a year. You call somebody because your expertise is in managing a learning institution. They bring in some money. Let's say your gross revenue is 50 million. So you call somebody who brings you 25. You move out of Thika town because you have now 25 million. You go buy a piece of land, more expensive, and you start growing. And you seed 25% of your business by the 25 million. That already prices your business at 100 million. Because if 25% is giving somebody 25, if 25 million is giving a person 25%, your business is now already worth 100 million. Then unakuwa kidogo, another one comes. You may end up having only 12.5% of the university. But the university now will have revenues of 2 billion shillings. Would you rather then ushikirie tu? As you do all that, in business always be data-driven. Data-driven. We usually imagine we are doing it, but we are not, including myself. So when I'm talking to you, I'm also talking to myself. There are no larger group of people who live in denial than the entrepreneurs. Those are the people who live in their own world. They cover themselves na pazia. Pazia imechorwa maua hapa. Not to see the vagaries that are outside there. So you are blocked by something here, unaona tu maua. But there is a stench out there. When you are a contractor and you don't become data-driven, you work in circles. Unaanzaga hapa and you return there. Unaitiwa barabara ya 7 million. Unafurahi nimepewa tender. Knowing the system, how it works, before you even start, 15% is gone. You know where it has gone. And it applies not just to roads, events, everything. Anything you are targeting, public business. Then unaitiwa ya 7 million, you are so happy. The next time unapigwa simu, kuna haya hapa ya 20, jaza. Ile profit ulikuwa umepata ile ya 7, hata haitoshi. Unaongeza ingine sasa uactivate ya 20. Same thing. You go into a cycle mpaka unafanya tenda ya 70 million. But ukikaa chini, you realize you actually have nothing in your pocket. You run in circles all the time. Una run to circle tu hivi. Be data-driven in all your businesses. Data-driven means bottom line. Business has something called top line. Top line ni ile revenue. Na iko na kitu inaitwa bottom line. Bottom line is after you remove everything else, what remains down there? You may realize you are busy. You are a busy entrepreneur and you attend all business meetings when they are called. And my friend, the guy who is your employee makes more money than you. Lakini hakuna mtu anaweza kutoa barabara. You are the boss. But your employee makes more money than you. Be data driven. Data driven helps you to know which businesses do I even discard. Maybe you have 6 businesses. Then after the end of the day, it becomes zero sum. Because the profit of this company is swallowed by the loss of this other one. Then you are zero sum. When you are data driven, it helps you to weed off. Kuondoa weed. Usione shamba imejaa greenery. Everything is green in your shamba. Take a walk in that shamba. You may realize it's not the beans that you planted that are all green. The most of the green are things you never planted, which are sucking your fertilizer and the nutrients from your land. So it's good to take a walk in your business in the mind. This business you've been doing for 5 years. Kaa chini kwanza ufanye hesabu. Of course, it happens in all our rural homes. Our parents are always busy with 1 cow or 2, tilling 2 acres of land. Ukimwambia kae chini na kalamu na paper, aandike hii ng'ombe, lita gapi hii? How much do you get this amount per liter? Then unaendea feeds kwa daily. What remains? You realize the money you sent your parent home for M-Pesa, you actually said your cow, not your mother. Now, that story is not about your mother, it's about you. The business that keeps you awake all day long. Your work here is to service your clients, is not to make money. You realize you are very good in service, offering very good service. People always clap for you, but you have no money. You didn't come to Nairobi to do that. You came to Nairobi to make money, because out of making money, then you make our economy better. Now, to go to investments in like a few minutes. I have to categorize the two because of this reason. What I've been talking about is what is called active business. Active means you wake up in the morning to manage, to do the work. The other part of which I'm talking about, investments, is passive. Passive. Now, you are no longer waking up in the morning kujaza watu dege waende Germany. You are no longer now doing that. That has given you some money, which is now capital. That money is now deployed to work for you while you sleep, or you still continue with your business. That's what investment does. As you do investments, I'm just doing a refresher. Ni zile tu vitu mnaochi nikisema, lakini I realize you don't hear. You just listen, you become happy, then that's it. When you listen to something that can benefit, let it not be for entertainment. Ati ya, nimefurahi roho. Niongea vizuri sana. Lakini after that, you go back to the same. You read a very nice book on entrepreneurship. You take 0 point. None. You become so happy. Hey, this guy made it this way. I'm so motivated. After you be motivated, then after 1 week, you are demotivated again back to the default setting. You've made money. You need to invest it to work for you. So there is land on this side. Fine. It's a good investment. But think about it. There is T-bills and bonds. There is MMFs. There are shares. Now, all those things are good, but it's a matter of when are you doing it. There is a time even me, I bought land at 3 million. It became 10 million after some years. We have stories of people who bought land at 300,000, became 2 million. But when was that? When is the last time you heard that story? Always ask yourself that. When is the last time you heard that beautiful story? Hey, nimenunua proti 700,000 na user 2.1. Sawa, unauza? Hebu niambie ukiuza na pesa imewekwa kwa bank. So that keep deciding. Are you going to put your money into land? Is your decision to make. There used to be that time, but that time changed. Why? Because some of you started land buying companies and they made land more available. So supply of land became more. And when supply of land became more, it stabilized the prices. Nairobi ilikuwa inafika pagani. Kama hukai area hiyo area, wewe huko kwingine hatuhesabu ni Nairobi. Ati unasema wapi? Nakaa Junja, haiko inahesabiwa ni Nairobi. Sasa these brothers and sisters of ours wako in land buying companies expanded to Nairobi. Wacha mpaka Keno, mtu anafanya kazi Keno, ana live Keno, anaishi Nairobi. Mtu anaishi Isinya, si anafanya kazi Nairobi. So they came and expanded Nairobi. Nairobi became elastic. When Nairobi became elastic, prices stabilized. It happened to all the other towns. Now that luxury is no longer available of buying land and in a shoot. Unless you are buying in, let's say, Nairobi CBD, where you can't expand the CBD further. But it expanded to Upper Hill, you know, and Westlands. Now, hiyo ni land. Hizi vitu za interest rate based. Interest based investment is fixing money in the bank. That's one part of it. T-bills and T-bonds. They're also okay, but when are you buying them? When you see interest rates globally coming down like they are doing now from Federal Reserve to Monetary Policy Committee in Nairobi to all the other economies, when you see interest rates are climbing down, it means these investments are becoming less attractive, and especially when they are likely to depreciate even further. So to cut the long story short, me I'm always, or currently, not always, at this timing, from 2024 coming to 2020, from 2023 actually, to this year, hopefully maybe by the close of the year or even slightly more. This is the period of stock market. And not just in Kenya, it is globally. People are making more money in the stock market than in any other area. Dow Jones going up. NASDAQ going up. That is the US. Nigeria stock market has gone up, I think, the highest level in 19 years. It's no coincidence you hear Nairobi Stock Exchange is performing well, Nigeria, Joburg, NYSC. It's not a coincidence that is tailor-made for Kenya or Nigeria. No. It's because the global economy moves together as a herd. So currently, you realize the stock market is doing very well. So coming to Kenya, when you need to know which share to buy, number one, look at the sector you want to buy into. There are many. One is agriculturals, automobiles, banking, insurance, commercial and allied, manufacturing, telecoms. Look at which sector am I buying and why. If I'm buying share in agriculturals, Kapchorwa T, Williamson T, Rimuru T, Kakuzi. Why? In Kenya, what drives agriculture? It's rain. That's why they make money this year or depreciating profit the next year. Because the variables are not in control of the person running the business. But if you are buying, let's say, Sasini company, sizably, then I would buy an agricultural company, but I'll not be buying the company. I'll be buying the yalad. Because the asset is bigger than their worth in the market. If I'm thinking about banking, yes, banking sector is doing very well in Kenya. And because it's also dominating the region. But then go to specifics. Between these companies, which one is better? Go study something called price of earning ratio. Study something called price to book value. Just write them. You'll go Google them later. Let them help you analyze which company is better. But as a nutshell, when you hear me talk about undervalued companies, including in our own NSC, it's because they are undervalued, including Safaricom. Why? You realize a company, for example, EABL, trading in the market by that time around 240 shillings. But because our market is too low, a buyer comes all the way from Japan, tells the largest shareholder to sell to them, and their buying price is 590 shillings. The same share. It shows you how undervalued our market is. Take interest in the NSC, learn about it, learn the opportunities there, and they are important. Very lastly, the rest I just mentioned, you go do the analysis because there's no much time today to buttress the point. The last thing I want to say is a national issue. It is tied up to business and investments. Sorry. Now, You must have heard about something called infrastructure fund in Kenya. That infrastructure fund, there's a bill in parliament which I've read all of it. It is proposing everything else we do. It's like you have a bill proposing Kenyans will be breathing, and then Kenyans will be walking, and the Kenyans will be eating, and then we will be wearing clothes. All the things in that bill are things the country already is doing. We will be privatizing companies. We're already doing that. We've been doing that since a long time ago. We'll be selling underperforming government assets. We've been doing all that. We'll be putting resources together. We've been doing that. We'll be allocating government or budget money into the fund. We've been allocating budget money into infrastructure. There is only one thing in that bill that Kenya wants to do and it has never done. And it's not a very good thing. The infrastructure fund has only one objective. Only one. The rest ni ya kujaza bill ikuwe page kama 20 something. Only one sentence. Only one sentence is there for the reason the government knows. That reason is called borrowing and leveraging. That after now we sell KPC, Kenya Pipeline, and of course Safaricom, we put that money into the infrastructure fund. Safaricom was sold before in 2007. So it's not a new thing to do privatization. But the essence of now what the government wants to achieve is that after you borrow 500 billion shillings, you now take a loan of times 10 of that. So you use that as collateral. Not as collateral, as seed money to buy times 10 of that. So when you hear those words coming from government like leveraging, leveraging is a crude word meaning borrowing. They want to borrow 5 trillion Kenya shillings on top of what? Kenya is currently borrowing. Yesterday we had a very good debate in parliament about debt. Fortunately, even when you talk big English out here, figures, they never talk English. Figures, they talk plain language. So there was a bill yesterday. There was a report from government itself, because the report was of the committee, but on a motion that was brought by government itself on managing debt. It's called MTDS. And you realize Kenya has been borrowing an average of 1.25 trillion Kenya shillings every year since 2022. Every single day, including today, Kenya is borrowing 4 billion shillings on net terms. Net meaning, sijaweka ile tumekopa kulipa deni ile ingine. Hiyo sijaweka. 4 billion every day on net terms. Na hapo, sijaweka ile kazi mnaona inaendelea hii Kenya. Because hiyo part ya hiyo pesa. Expansion ya Nairobi Nakuru Road, haiko hapo. That's another PPP. It will also become some form of borrowing later when the toll money is not sufficient. When you see other roads being constructed, it's also not part of that loan. It's another illegal loan we have taken called securitization. When you see a stadium being built, it's also not part of the 4 billion. It is a 46 billion loan, a 44 billion loan we have taken, where we are paying an interest of 100 billion shillings in 15 years. When you hear about Bombers of Kenya, it's also not part of this loan. It is another way of borrowing money using the tourism fund. So what we must ask as Kenyans constantly is accountability of the monies we are borrowing. Because now we want to deviate, because tumekopa sana ile deni ya kawaida ya government. Now we want to deviate by opening another book on the side called infrastructure fund. We borrow an extra 5 billion bila kuulizwa swali. My friends, I can tell you, if we do not have a stop on this, we will all pay the price of incompetence of decision-making at the leadership level. Ghana paid the price, where you owe government, the government owes you through T-bills, let's say $1 million. The government forced Ghanaians to take haircuts. The government comes and tells you, I know you bought a bill or a board of $1 million, but from today we owe you 700,000. You can go where you want to go. And that is the government telling you exactly that. Senegal is in the same situation. So the things I talk about, and especially debt, which we are now want to borrow now at a higher speed through infrastructure fund, is not a very good model to grow the economy. If you want to grow infrastructure, grow the economy, grow the revenue, grow the taxes, then you do all the things you want to do, just as Kebake did it. Thank you very much. May God bless you. Now, you must have heard about something called infrastructure fund in Kenya. That infrastructure fund, there's a bill in parliament which I've read all of it. It is proposing everything else we do. It's like you have a bill proposing Kenyans will be breathing, and then Kenyans will be walking, and the Kenyans will be eating, and then we will be wearing clothes. All the things in that bill are things the country already is doing. We will be privatizing companies. We're already doing that. We've been doing that since a long time ago. We'll be selling underperforming government assets. We've been doing all that. We'll be putting resources together. We've been doing that. We'll be allocating government or budget money into the fund. We've been allocating budget money into infrastructure. There is only one thing in that bill that Kenya wants to do and it has never done. And it's not a very good thing. The infrastructure fund has only one objective. Only one. The rest ni ya kujaza bill ikuwe page kama 20 something. Only one sentence. Only one sentence is there for the reason the government knows. That reason is called borrowing and leveraging. That after now we sell KPC, Kenya Pipeline, and of course Safaricom, we put that money into the infrastructure fund. Safaricom was sold before in 2007. So it's not a new thing to do privatization. But the essence of now what the government wants to achieve is that after you borrow 500 billion shillings, you now take a loan of times 10 of that. So you use that as collateral. Not as collateral, as seed money to buy times 10 of that. So when you hear those words coming from government like leveraging, leveraging is a crude word meaning borrowing. They want to borrow 5 trillion Kenya shillings on top of what? Kenya is currently borrowing. Yesterday we had a very good debate in parliament about debt. Fortunately, even when you talk big English out here, figures, they never talk English. Figures, they talk plain language. So there was a bill yesterday. There was a report from government itself, because the report was of the committee, but on a motion that was brought by government itself on managing debt. It's called MTDS. And you realize Kenya has been borrowing an average of 1.25 trillion Kenya shillings every year since 2022. Every single day, including today, Kenya is borrowing 4 billion shillings on net terms. Net meaning, sijaweka ile tumekopa kulipa deni ile ingine. Hiyo sijaweka. 4 billion every day on net terms. Na hapo, sijaweka ile kazi mnaona inaendelea hii Kenya. Because hiyo part ya hiyo pesa. Expansion ya Nairobi Nakuru Road, haiko hapo. That's another that's a PPP. It will also become some form of borrowing later when the toll money is not sufficient. When you see other roads being constructed, it's also not part of that loan. It's another illegal loan we have taken called securitization. When you see a stadium being built, it's also not part of the 4 billion. It is a 46 billion loan, a 44 billion loan we have taken, where we are paying an interest of 100 billion shillings in 15 years. When you hear about Bomas of Kenya, it's also not part of this loan. It is another way of borrowing money using the tourism fund. So what we must ask as Kenyans constantly is accountability of the monies we are borrowing. Because now we want to deviate, because tumekopa sana ile deni ya kawaida ya government. Now we want to deviate by opening another book on the side called infrastructure fund. We borrow an extra 5 billion bila kuulizwa swali. My friends, I can tell you, if we do not have a stop on this, we will all pay the price of incompetence of decision making at the leadership level. Ghana paid the price where you owe government, the government owes you through T-bills, let's say $1 million. The government forced Ghanaians to take haircuts. The government comes and tells you, I know you bought a bill or a bond of $1 million, but from today we owe you 700,000. You can go where you want to go. And that is the government telling you exactly that. Senegal is in the same situation. So the things I talk about, and especially debt, which we are now want to borrow now at a higher speed through infrastructure fund, is not a very good model to grow the economy. If you want to grow infrastructure, grow the economy, grow the revenue, grow the taxes, then you do all the things you want to do, just as Kebake did it. Thank you very much.